At a time when the adults around you have been encouraging you for years to get off of your phones and consoles and laptops, this time during COVID, we've seen more young people on their consoles and phones in front of screens for longer periods of time and at the request of adults. To complete your learning, you've done really well to be able to submit your work and stay in touch with your teachers during this really tricky time. I've also spent a lot of time in front of my computer rather than having face-to-face interactions with you guys. And that's really kind of impacted my mental well-being as well. Being in front of a screen really makes my brain feel like it's rewiring, and that can make me feel so off-balanced. The moment that I step outside and I go out and I feel the fresh air and I see the sky, I just feel instantly better. Screen time is a massive barrier towards the 5 steps of well-being that we've discussed in a previous video. So let's go through those 5 steps and how screen time can actually stop us from really being able to work on those 5 areas so that we can have a greater well-being. So the first one is connect. And of course, that's probably the main reason why you're on your phones and things in the first place, because you're able to connect with people your age and even celebrities and kind of connect with the outside world, something that's probably been really important to you during lockdown. But what if we were to just limit that a bit? Because while we're connecting through your phones with other people, how much are we actually connecting with our own selves? How much are we connecting with the people who are more closely related to us or the people that we live with? So what about active? How possible is it to be active whilst we're engaged in screen time? There's a direct correlation between being physical and being mentally well. It does so much for us to get out and to be physical, but in fact the very action of kind of looking at a screen is actually damaging our physicality. Looking down at screens or being in a position for a long time without even realising it, we're starting to create tension in our necks, in our bodies, and that can actually make us feel more anxious if we're already having problems with managing our anxiety. We could be sat for ages not realising that we're straining our necks and our shoulders and building up tension in our bodies. And when we do that, it can make us actually feel more mentally unwell. Other parts of the brain that are affected by too much screen time are the parts of the brain responsible for emotions. So when your parents and carers are saying to you that you get really moody after you've been on your phone or your laptop too long, maybe they're actually right. And I guess if you really were true in asking your own self and being honest with your own self, you'd probably agree that actually you can feel quite irritable and snappy when you've been on the phone for too long. It's also scientifically proven that the longer we spend on screens, the more disrupted our sleep will be, especially if we're using our screens just before bedtime. In the previous video, we looked at what might be meant by taking notice. And we discussed the idea of mindfulness and being in touch with our own selves and the world around us, which is really difficult to do when you're on a screen for long periods of time. The world is much bigger than that, and to truly experience those things and to gain benefit from it in terms of our mental wellness, we have to kind of really be in it. When you take notice, it makes you curious and inquisitive about the world around you. It makes us start to ask questions and make sense of things, make up our own minds about how we see the world. Next section is learn. Technology has enabled us to learn so much, so quickly, and to have so much knowledge at the end of your fingertips. But there's a part of your brain that's responsible for enabling you to learn, and that actual part of your brain is starting to get thinner and thinner because of the overuse of screens. Your brain is continuing to develop right up until you go into your early 20s, and that gives you the capacity to learn new stuff. So at the same time, at a crucial time in fact, when you're going through your education and you're learning about the world and relationships, it's having a counter effect, which means that you're trying to learn, but at the same time, the part of your brain that is supposed to help you to learn is getting thinner and getting damaged. Because we can't see that damage without having a scan, we become mindless and we don't realise the seriousness of that. If I was to tell you not to eat your favourite food because it was damaging your insides, you'd probably start thinking about giving it up. So then, therefore, we need to try to be conscious and realise that the damage that we're causing ourselves can be easily stopped just by reducing the amount of time we spend on our phones, which is recommended to be 2 hours a day. So I'm not just an adult here to tell you to get off your phones. Rather, I'm inviting you to think about what impact it's having on your life when we think about the 5 steps to well-being and how many barriers it puts up for you. So don't take 5 steps towards well-being and then take 5 steps back. And meanwhile, I'll be thinking about mine too.